And I was sexually assaulted and raped at that beach house. At the time, not being able to
Not
remember
live.
Who's mute? Have to mute the news. Who's watching TV?
being there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Alrighty. Hi, everyone. My name is Demetria. I'm the team lead for our nutrition team with SestraNow. And tonight I am with Cinia, and we are going to discuss nutrition and essentially just how raw foods affect us when we eat them, as far as the benefits go, and also some of the things to kind of look out for as well if you do decide to do a raw food diet or kind of implement that into your everyday eating. Alrighty, so first we're going to start with the basics. Here we have My Plate. My Plate basically is what replaced the pyramid. That's what I grew up with back in the day. So the My Plate is essentially the same thing. It just illustrates the 5 food groups in a healthy diet, and they break the sections down. We have 30% grains, 40% vegetables, 10 for fruits, and 20 for protein-rich foods. And then the 5th section usually just involves some type of dairy or water. Alrighty, and then the next slide just kind of breaks down a basic guide for the My Plate concept. I'm just kind of going to leave this up here for a second. I'm not going to read everything, but it just breaks down, saying that when you add fruits and vegetables to your diet, that it is going to be higher in fiber and antioxidants. Fiber is good for digestive health, and then antioxidants are good for fighting free radicals, which can possibly lead to cancer and also anti-aging. So we all need a little bit of antioxidants in our life. And then if we go kind of further down, it just breaks down the fruits and vegetables, saying, to try to mostly do non-starchy veggies, which will be your white potatoes, white rice, things like that. So kind of veer away from those items. And then next, we're just going to kind of go in and break it down for each category. Alrighty, so now we're just going to talk about each specific diet. We do have several diets kind of popular now. So this is just breaking down as far as the differences between them. Most diets have the same 5 groups: the grains, the veggies, the fruits, and the protein-rich items. But as you break down the different diets, there are certain things that may change. And those things that pretty much change across the different diets are just going to be your proteins and your dairy. So for protein, the different proteins that we have for a vegan diet, which is no meat or no meat byproducts like eggs or cheese. Ways to get protein in the vegan diet would be beans, lentils, chickpeas, nut butters, seeds, and also through quinoa. For paleo essentially kind of avoids processed items and is low on sugar for the most part. So that pretty much just covers all protein with the chicken, the turkey, the seafood, and of course, eggs and cheese. Pescatarian is just going to be our seafood. So it's no chicken, no turkey, no beef, no pork. And then vegetarian is basically the same as vegan, except they do implement the eggs and the cheese. Alrighty, and then for dairy, not much of a difference here, but for paleo, pescatarian, and vegetarian, you're going to be able to eat all of the dairies for that. So you'll be able to eat your eggs, your cheese, your milk, and drink your milk. But vegan, it slightly differs because you can't do the milk and the cheese. So for instance, as far as nut and oat milk go, a lot of these things may not have certain vitamins in them already, but they can be fortified with it. But just be careful with buying those items in the store because they may be fortified with things that aren't as good for you. And then you have the cheese that you can make from either cashews or coconuts, and different vegan alternatives like yogurt, and even some vegan meats, which are processed, so not so heavy on those, but some of those vegan meats also contain certain amounts of dairy as well. And then we kind of have it both breaking down for English and Spanish as well in this particular presentation. Alrighty. And now I'm going to give the presentation over to Cinia, and she's just going to explain more in detail what a raw food diet is.
Ahora sí, ya. Ahora sí, ya es su tiempo. Está mudo, mudo.
Buenas tardes, perdón.
Good afternoon. Excuse me.
Bueno, yo les voy a hablar de lo que es no una dieta cruda, el título no es una dieta cruda, sino lo que es alimentación. Poner más alimentos crudos en nuestra alimentación. Son dos cosas diferentes. Entonces,
What Senior is saying, she's going to focus on increasing your raw food intake, like increasing more raw foods to your diet.
ok, lo que son alimentos crudos son lo que se conocen como alimentos cocinados o calentados, perdón, lo que no han sido cocinados o calentados a temperaturas mayores a 115 grados. Son también alimentos que son sin refinar, sin pasteurizar, que no se han sido tratados con pesticidas o procesados de alguna otra manera.
Yeah, so basically you could follow along with the presentation. She's saying that foods that are not cooked or heated at temperatures greater than 115 degrees Fahrenheit, those are considered raw foods. They're unrefined, they're not pasteurized, they're not treated with pesticides or processed in any way.
Ok. Para incluir alimentos crudos en nuestra dieta se pueden usar diferentes métodos de preparación, como es exprimir, para hacer jugos, puede ser mezclas, se pueden hacer productos deshidratados, se puede hacer también productos en remojos y también, como en el ejemplo de las leguminosas, se pueden dejar germinar. Son diferentes métodos para preparar alimentos crudos.
So she's basically saying what it says there. These are the different ways to prepare it. You can juice them, blend them, dehydrate, soak, or sprout. Before you move forward, I just want to talk about sprouting. Sprouting is, if you looked at the slide before, like when you take beans or you take seeds and, well, beans, legumes, and you soak them in a way. So it's a certain process, but it's a way of sprouting it. You kind of keep it damp and then it sprouts a plant. So that's what sprouting is.
Right, exactly. And there are different ways to do it. There's a paper towel method. I actually have a post that I can post in the group later tonight or tomorrow that breaks down sprouting specifically, if anyone was wondering. I saw that in the chat as a question. So I'll be happy to share that after the presentation.
¿Sí, Juanet?
Sí, es que yo solo estoy explicando germinar. ¿Qué significa germinar?
Ok. Bueno, no, estos son algunos beneficios no de una dieta cruda, sino del poner alimentos crudos como frutas y vegetales en nuestra alimentación, de incrementar su consumo. La dieta cruda es algo diferente.
Okay, she's saying there's a slight difference between a raw food diet, like a raw food diet is a thing, but she's saying her presentation is more focusing on the benefits of increasing your raw food intake.
Ok, entonces si incrementamos el consumo de vegetales y frutas, que son alimentos crudos, vamos a obtener beneficios como rebajar lo que es nuestro peso, tener una pérdida de peso adecuada. Va a mejorar la vitalidad por la cantidad de vitaminas y nutrientes que nos aportan. Va a darnos un aumento de energía, sobre todo con el consumo de frutas, ¿verdad? Por la fructosa que nos da. También hay una mejora en lo que son las enfermedades crónicas, ¿verdad? Lo que es hipertensión, diabetes. También hay una mejora en lo que es salud general por la gran fuente de vitaminas y minerales. Y por supuesto que, bueno, esto es en el caso de quitar el consumo de carnes o lácteos, va a reducir lo que es el impacto en el medio ambiente. Por esa razón es que mejora, digamos, el medio ambiente.
So as it's saying here, she says, when you consume raw fruits and vegetables, or just increasing your vegetable and fruit intake, that the benefits are weight loss, improved vitality, increased energy, improvement of chronic diseases like diabetes and hypertension and things like that, improved overall health, and it reduces the impact in the environment, because consuming meat, for instance, you know, they have to feed the cows and they have to, you know, clear fields and stuff like that. So there are many people who are vegetarian or who are one of their reasons for doing so is because they have concerns of the environment.
Lo que indica ahí sobre que cocinar los alimentos destruye enzimas naturales y reduce el valor nutricional, eso no se da en todo, se da. Sí es cierto que se destruyen enzimas, pero ya de por sí, digamos, lo que es el proceso de digestión, al haber tanto ácido en el estómago, ya ahí igual las enzimas se desnaturalizan y las proteínas. Entonces, no es solo al cocinarlo, sino también al digerirlo. También, digamos, bueno, ese lo podemos ver más adelante, solo para aclararles eso.
No entendí. Usted está diciendo que
Es
no
que ahí,
no puede comer todas las cosas crudas.
no, que ahí dice que cocinar los alimentos destruye enzimas naturales y el valor nutricional. No es solo al cocinarlos, también a la hora de digerirlos por la acidez estomacal, ya se lleva ese proceso de destrucción de enzimas.
And so not only cooking foods, sometimes it destroys the natural enzymes and reduces their natural value, but it's not always the case.
Sí, con la digestión también se da.
Because also digestion does that, can do that to you as well. The process of digestion also breaks down the enzymes and the natural value, reduces the natural value just from digesting.
Ok, la siguiente. Ok, entre los alimentos que podemos comer como crudos está todo lo que son frutas, lo que son vegetales, lo que son nueces y semillas, también lo que son granos y legumbres, estos tratando de germinarlos, también lo que son leches de semillas, ¿verdad? O mantequillas también de semillas, de nueces. También los aceites, prefiriendo que sean frío, prensado en frío y sin refinar, para que no lleven un proceso ahí de calentar. También alimentos fermentados, ¿verdad? Como se puede hacer con el chucrut, que es un repollo ahí fermentado. Lo que son algas marinas y, bueno, gel de musgo marino, que ese lo desconozco.
Okay, so she just pretty much was saying this is a list of foods that you can eat that will be included in a raw foods diet. Obviously, fresh fruits and raw vegetables, soaked and sprouted nuts and seeds, soaked or sprouted or soaked grains and legumes, drying fruits, but not using sulfur dioxide, because usually when you purchase fruits, they usually have that sulfur dioxide, I'm thinking, as a preservative. There's nut milks, raw nut butters, cold pressed and unrefined olive oil, fermented foods like sauerkraut, seaweed, sea moss gel, and herbal teas. How herbal teas, for herbal teas, what you have to do, just soak it? Is that what you would do?
Yes, it's just like regular tea. So basically just like if you buy a tea bag from a store, you can kind of gather your own herbs and spices and use your own tea device to actually steep the tea. So it just depends on what you want to do. But either way, just drinking regular herbal tea. Yeah. And then for the sun-dried portion, just to kind of touch back on the sulfur dioxide, you can kind of tell the difference with the color. And that's for fruits and vegetables. If it's a little darker, especially with like tomatoes, if it's darker, then that means it was likely sun-dried. If it's more of a brighter red, that means it likely has sulfur dioxide, but usually on the back of the label, it lists that.
Okay, sigue, sigue.
Ok, y entre las comidas que bueno, esto es si usted solo quiere consumir alimentos crudos, entonces debería evitar cualquier tipo de alimento que tenga algún proceso, ya sea de cocción, de tostado, de refinamiento, de pasteurizado, etcétera.
So what she's saying that this is only if you want to have a strict raw food diet. Not saying that there's anything wrong with cooking these foods or preparing these foods this way. It's just if for those people who want to follow a strict raw diet, you have to avoid baking and roasting, using refined oils, table salt, refined sugar and flour, pasteurized juices, coffee, alcohol, pasta, pastries, chips, and so on and so forth. You can see it right there. So if you really want to be true to that, then you should avoid those things too. But of course, they have nutritional value. There's nothing wrong with that, to consume your foods in this way. It's just, we're trying to encourage you to increase your raw food intake, but also to understand what a raw food diet is about.
Correct.
Ok,
And I saw the comment about the pre-made spaghetti sauce. Yes, it's actually not that difficult. You just have to get your own tomatoes and then from there just kind of prepare them your own that way.
¿me traduce, Annette?
Oh, ella está diciendo que si puede preparar su propia salsa de tomate con tomates.
Ah, ok, ok. Ok, estos son, son puntos positivos, pero no de una dieta cruda, sino de tener más alimentos crudos en la alimentación, ¿verdad?
Okay, so she's saying these are positive foods, not necessarily for a raw foods diet, but just the benefits of having increasing your intake of raw foods.
Ok, entonces está lo que es el consumo diario de frutas y verduras frescas. Son alimentos que son más altos en nutrientes, en vitaminas, en minerales, en fibra, ¿verdad? También al tener el consumo de estos alimentos, vamos a limitar el consumo de alimentos que no nos van a contribuir con la salud, ¿verdad? Como por ejemplo, alimentos de comidas rápidas. Obviamente son muy bajos en calorías, entonces sí nos va a ayudar a mantener el peso, pero no podemos vivir solo de ellos. Y ayudan también para lo que es la pérdida de peso en un consumo adecuado.
So she's saying that these are good, these are positive things that you will benefit from if you increase your raw food diet, raw foods. As it's listed here, you know, a raw food diet, well, when a raw food, actually a diet when you're using fresh fruits and vegetables, naturally is a healthier route to go. But she's saying, she's saying that not necessarily, not everybody can benefit or can live off of a raw food diet because you have to take different things into consideration for each individual.
Ok, en algunos estudios científicos, tengo que explicar, aquí hay un error y se está haciendo. Es que estos son estudios científicos, pero de una dieta cruda, ¿ok?
Again, she's explaining to you, again, these are scientific studies based on a raw diet, not necessarily increasing the fruits and vegetables.
Ok, entonces en esos estudios se detectó que sí hay reducción de colesterol, de triglicéridos, ¿verdad? En sangre. También lo que es aumento de los niveles de colesterol sano, pero había una deficiencia de vitamina B12. Hay riesgo de erosión dental, esto por la acidez que provoca consumir todos los alimentos crudos. No es por el consumo de frutas y vegetales crudos, sino por otros productos crudos. Hay menos grasa corporal, pero también afectó en lo que es el ciclo menstrual de muchas mujeres. Y por supuesto que había una ingesta baja de proteínas, calcio y vitamina D. Y una masa ósea baja. Quiere decir que hay una desmineralización del hueso. Por eso había que quitarla, ¿no?
Okay, so she's saying that this is not necessarily, she basically, Senior, it wants to emphasize that there's, all you do is get benefits from increasing your fruits and vegetables. But a raw food diet, in some cases, although most cases it usually talks about it, it's usually talking about vegan diet. It also may include raw meats, raw fish, some milks and cheese and stuff like that. So she's saying that she wants to make it clear that if you're just talking about fruits and vegetables, you only have positive benefits from that. But when you're thinking about considering all those other things, you have to be careful for those things. So these risks or these things that are not so beneficial, you have to be careful of. The things you have to be careful of. That it's not just, it's when you're also consuming, raw meat and things like that.
Ok, es que hay que dar el ejemplo, ¿verdad? Digamos, cuando alguien cambia, si fuera el hecho de una dieta totalmente cruda, si alguien pasa a hacer esta dieta, obviamente las calorías van a bajar drásticamente, ¿verdad? Entonces sí va a haber una pérdida de todo lo que antes decíamos, colesterol, triglicéridos, glucosa. ¿Por qué? Porque las verduras y los vegetales nos aportan muy pocas calorías. Si quiere, traduce esa parte.
Okay, wait, can you, un momentito, por favor. She's saying that if you switch drastically from a regular diet to a raw food diet, obviously you're going to lose weight, you're going to see, lower levels in cholesterol and problems like that. That's obviously going to happen. Okay, sigue.
Ok, entonces, bueno, si bien es cierto también que cocinar algunos alimentos hace que se pierdan nutrientes, sobre todo en el caso de vitaminas, porque la vitamina C es muy sensible, tanto a la luz como al calor. Y digamos, vitaminas B, sí es cierto que al cocinar algunos se pierde, también la disponibilidad de otros nutrientes aumenta. Por ejemplo, lo que son nutrientes o antioxidantes, lo que es el licopeno y el betacaroteno. Más bien, cuando cocinamos...
Virginia, un momentito. She's saying that cooking your food doesn't necessarily deplete the vitamins of everything. It depends on what it is. And she's also saying, so you're not going to lose your teeth necessarily. And she says also when you cook certain foods, it increases the benefits from the nutrition. So it depends.
Antioxidantes y nutrientes.
¿Qué dijo?
Antioxidantes y nutrientes.
So antioxidants, ¿y qué más?
Nutrientes.
Oh, and nutrients, yeah. So
como por ejemplo el tomate, si nosotros lo cocinamos, el licopeno que contiene más bien va a aumentar la absorción del cuerpo.
So she said, for example, tomato, if you cook it, the what, ¿qué tiene los qué?
Licopeno.
I don't know what the licopeno, something that tomatoes have, it increases when you cook it. There's some nutrient in tomatoes.
Es un antioxidante del tomate.
Okay, it's an antioxidant that tomatoes have. If you cook
muy
it,
bueno para lo que es el cáncer de próstata.
It's very good for cancer of the qué?
Próstata.
Oh, for prostate cancer, something that's very good for prostate cancer. So it increases when you cook it.
Ok. También a la hora de cocinar, ¿verdad? Es muy importante porque se destruye lo que son compuestos dañinos en alimentos, como por ejemplo lo que son en algunos cereales y legumbres se reducen unos nutrientes, bueno, no nutrientes, unos compuestos que lo que hacen es impedir que el cuerpo absorba minerales.
Okay, so she's saying when you cook certain things like cereals, yes, it does destroy certain nutrients, but it also helps you to be able to digest it better. So, there's pluses and minuses to it.
También es importante que al cocinar, van a morir lo que son las bacterias dañinas, ¿verdad? Que nos pueden afectar de forma grave. Y sobre todo en lo que son legumbres disminuye mucho lo que son molestias gastrointestinales.
Okay, so she's saying that cooking also is good for your food because it gets rid of bacteria and things like that. So it depends on what it is. And she says, and also when you're dealing with beans, legumes, that it helps you with the digestion if you cook it.
Ok, entonces ya para finalizar mi parte, mi recomendación ya profesional es que sí es muy importante consumir más vegetales y más verduras en la dieta. De hecho, se recomienda la mitad del plato de vegetales y verduras.
So she's saying her professional opinion, she is a nutritionist. She's saying her professional opinion is to increase your vegetable and fruit intake as recommended by My Plate. So half of your plate should be vegetables.
En el caso de que ya una persona quiera optar por una dieta totalmente cruda, sí es muy importante que lo haga guiado con un médico porque tiene que consultar su situación, si su situación lo permite, tanto personal, física, bioquímica.
She's saying that if you do choose to take on a raw diet, you should contact your doctor because depending on each individual, you have to know whether or not that type of a diet would be suitable for you.
Ok, y si quiere pasar a una dieta cruda, hacerlo poco a poco y siempre acompañado de un profesional en nutrición y de estarse chequeando lo que son exámenes bioquímicos, ¿verdad? Y también físicos, ver que si hay caída de cabello, que si se quiebran las uñas, que si la parte blanca de los ojos está amarilla, son
Okay,
señales
un
de que...
momentito. So she's saying that if you want to do it also, if you want to start a raw food diet, do it little by little and notice if you're having any kind of negative impact. If your hair falls out, if your nails change color, if your eyes turn yellow, you have to, not regulate, you have to
chequear.
check yourself to make sure that it's not impacting you in a negative way. And you should work with a nutritionist.
Entonces, esa era mi presentación. Espero que les haya quedado claro la importancia de sí, frutas y vegetales como alimentos crudos en nuestra alimentación.
So she's to finish her portion of it, she's saying she just wants to express that increasing these things are very, very good for your diet, very good for your health. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you for that, Cynthia. And then just to kind of piggyback off what Cynthia was saying, as far as a raw food diet goes, the things that were listed there, what I did was just kind of come in and kind of further explain things that can help eliminate some of the scientific studies that may have seen that some parts of a raw diet may be bad. For instance, if you're drinking more things that are acidic, such as fresh squeezed orange juice or juicing or blending certain smoothies and things like that, it's best to drink it with a straw, which will help kind of avoid or help prevent that tooth erosion that we were talking about. Another thing about raw food diets is that it may kind of develop some type of menstrual issues. And raspberry leaf, yarrow roots, and also fenugreek are really good to kind of help combat menstrual cycle issues. Another concern was that you may not have enough body mass. So I've listed raw sources of fats as well as protein sources that are raw. So we just have avocado, chia, hemp, flax, and sesame seeds. And then of course the sprouted beans and lentils that we talked about will be good for protein as well as raw butters. One more thing I wanted to mention, when we were kind of putting together the presentation, we ran across some information that Cynthia also mentioned about supplements. Taking supplements while eating a raw food diet is, for the most part, discouraged. And that's only because eating raw foods implements those nutritional values that you need that you may otherwise lack when you do cook items. So eating raw foods with the proper nutritional value, as well as taking supplements, it kind of overloads your body. So if your body has too much of what it needs, it'll stop making it. So if you decide to kind of veer away from a raw food diet or stop taking those supplements, your body may not produce what it needs to naturally, which may cause for certain deficiencies in certain vitamins and things of that nature if you take that route. Alrighty, and then lastly, just to kind of hint on the bone mass that it mentioned as well. These are just some kind of tips to help increase vitamin D and calcium. when you eat items. So essentially, when you consume calcium, if you implement some form of vitamin D, it helps absorb that calcium better. Some forms of calcium are leafy greens such as spinach, broccoli, and even collard greens. Sweet potatoes, nuts, seeds, and some fruits are really good for, or are a really good source of calcium, excuse me. And then to kind of piggyback on the calcium, because you need the vitamin D to absorb it better. Some forms of vitamin D are fortified orange juice and almond milk, spinach, and of course, sunlight. And that's just simply, you can sit outside and eat your meal if it's high in calcium. And those small steps will help you ultimately be able to absorb that calcium a little bit better.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we're entertaining questions. If anyone has any questions. I have a question. That seems like a lot of information. Eso se ve como un montón de información. Entonces, how practical is it really to incorporate, one, to do a raw food diet, and if not to do a raw food diet, to increase the raws into our diet?
Raw food diets aren't really that hard to kind of implement, in my opinion, because it can be as simple as a salad with some homemade dressing. I think the biggest thing is not to overthink it, because smoothies count for raw. You can wake up in the morning and make you a smoothie. That's one raw meal a day. Even if you want to kind of do it 2 meals a day, you could eat a salad for lunch. Just make sure you're paying attention to the ingredients if you do store-bought dressing, because sometimes those things can have chemicals and preservatives that don't fall underneath the raw food diet guidelines. But there are several nutritionists. One of my favorites is Stephanie Sunshine. She's on Instagram as well as Facebook. She actually has a raw food diet recipe book that's really, really good. And it kind of breaks down different ways. You can make tahini dressing, which is my favorite. And that's just incorporating almond butter with cocoa aminos and seasoning. And it's one of my favorites. So raw food diets, I think it takes practice like everything else, but it's really not as hard as it may seem. It seems like a lot of guidelines, but it's really not as difficult as the presentation may have made it seem. So it's very feasible.
Demetria, do you do a raw food diet? Are you all raw foods, all raw?
I'm not on all raw foods. I'm just a vegan at the moment, but I have done several detox plans that have implemented raw food diets from a 7 to 14 day time period. And it's a very great experience. Even if it's just on a health level, you have more energy as far as clarity, focus. So there are a lot of benefits that we didn't necessarily touch on in the presentation that raw food diets do actually present to you if you implement them, not just on a daily basis, but if you just want to detox. So for like, say for a 7-day period, if you just choose to detox, you can notice those differences. You can either do a 2-a-day meal type plan with the raw foods, or just do completely raw foods for that 7-day time period.
Okay, we have a question, and I'm going to try to ask it in Spanish as well, since since Steve could weigh in on this. Someone says that she has diabetes, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol, and she needs to lose weight. What would you recommend? Ciña, hay una persona aquí que está diciendo que ella tiene diabetes, presión alto y colesterol alto, y ella tiene que bajar de peso. Tiene unas recomendaciones para ella.
¿Recomendaciones en base del tema?
Sí.
Ok. Ok. Para lo que es diabetes, tiene que mantener un consumo adecuado de carbohidratos, ojalá no refinados, sino integrales. Ok.
Okay, she's saying that for your diabetes, you have to maintain your carbohydrate intake and stay away from refined carbs. You have to use whole grains or whole foods.
Ajá.
Right, so that's white rice, white sugar, things of that nature, white bread.
Tratando de mantener como las mismas, no le puedo decir cantidades porque es muy personalizado, ¿verdad? Pero
She's saying
por
she can't really
ejemplo,
tell you amounts because it's a very personal thing. So she's just gonna say general things.
pero por ejemplo, tratar de mantener las cantidades iguales durante el día. Entonces, si ella tiene que hacer por lo menos 5 comidas al día para que no tenga un bajonazo de azúcar. Entonces,
Okay, she's saying that you have to try to maintain, you know, like have a steady eating period, and it's better to have to eat 5 times a day, but it has to be like a strict schedule for when you eat.
entonces, por ejemplo, si come 2 carbohidratos al desayuno, también 2 al almuerzo, 2 a la cena. Si come 1 en la merienda, que en la otra merienda sea también 1, como para equilibrar la cantidad de glucosa en sangre durante el día sea normal.
Okay, so she's saying if however you eat, like for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so if you eat, you know, 2 fruits or 2 carbohydrates, I'm not sure what she's saying, but like keep the portions the same. Like don't say, okay, for breakfast, you're gonna have a breakfast high in carbs and then dinner is gonna be protein heavy or something like that. You should try to keep the percentages of what the portions and the types of foods similar throughout the meals.
Obviamente quitar el azúcar, ¿verdad? Y los productos que la contengan. Y dependiendo de los niveles en que esté de glucosa, de vez en cuando ella puede comer algo dulce.
Okay, and she said, of course, try to avoid sweet things and things that have sugar, but of course, once in a while, you can eat something sweet.
Eso más que todo en la diabetes, ¿verdad? Cuidarse mucho los pies.
¿Los qué? ¿Los qué?
Los pies a la hora de cortarse las uñas, de hacerse pedicure, si se lo hace.
She said, of course, you have to take care of your feet when you're cutting your toenails and all that stuff.
Porque la diabetes afecta lo que son los nervios. Entonces, por eso es que a veces se les amputa partes del pie, porque ellos, se lo va a explicar a usted se los explica bien a ellos. Puede
Okay.
ser que se punzan con un clavo, se cortaron, como los nervios están dañados por la diabetes, no lo sienten y se les hace una infección. Entonces siempre hay que revisar las plantas de los pies y cuidar de andar zapatos cerrados, etc.
Right, so she just said you have to be careful, make sure you wear cold shoes, because I know we know this, that if you injure yourself, diabetes affects your nerves. And so when you injure yourself, you can't feel that you're injured. And so of course, you know, that causes amputation. Pero más que todo, sobre comida.
Ajá, es que todo es importante.
She's saying everything is important. I'm like, let's focus on the food, but she's saying that's important too.
En lo que es hipertensión, es muy importante que verifique no estar consumiendo mucha sal por la cantidad de sodio que tiene. El sodio aumenta la presión alta.
Right. She, of course, for high blood pressure, you have to take care of your salt intake.
Revisar.
But I think, yo creo que ella está preguntando cuáles son las alimentos, cuáles son las comidas que pueden ayudar, como las comidas crudas que pueden ayudar a bajar o
vegetales. En el caso de diabetes, vegetales, y tendría que averiguar, porque ya es otro tema muy grande, lo que son frutas de bajo índice glicémico, en el caso de diabetes. Y
okay. Right, so she's saying that vegetables are the answer to regulate diabetes. Eat a lot of vegetables. And of course, you have to be careful. There's some fruits that are high in sugar, so you have to avoid those.
Y en lo que es hipertensión, muchos vegetales.
Everything, but vegetales son la respuesta de todo. Vegetables is the answer to everything. Increase your vegetables.
Listo.
Okay, anybody else?
I just wanted to add that there are specific fruits and vegetables that you can eat for those specific conditions. And I'll be happy to look through my notes and kind of share that in the group as well if you want to. And also, I think with a raw diet, it's kind of best, especially if you're a meat eater, not to jump straight from eating meat to eating raw foods. So it's kind of a process. So say, for instance, if Monday you're eating meat and Tuesday you want to eat raw foods, your body is not going to be happy about that. So if to kind of transition into that, if you want to maybe eat meat one day and then maybe cut back and only eat veggies another day and then maybe smoothies another day and then implement the raw food diet, it's better to kind of gradually go into that and cut certain things out of your diet instead of just jumping from one extreme to the next. So that's also something to consider when switching completely over or just kind of implementing a raw food diet into your everyday eating.
Okay.
Someone here says that it's going to be a struggle. That last lift of nose in my life. So and also someone said they're going to try some more foods, but not all. Somebody said that she has increased her raw food take, but the fruits are tricky for diabetics. Any other questions?
Somebody said, are there any, oh no. Can you suggest a detox program?
Yes, the detox programs that I use, as I mentioned earlier, her name is Stephanie Sunshine, and I'll be happy to kind of pull her information up and enter that as well. So I have a list of things that I'll be sharing in the group after the presentation. But she is on Instagram. I think it's _ Stephanie Sunshine. And she's usually who I do my detoxes with. We have like an inner circle type group that we're in. So I call them my little tribe, but she's really good and she is a certified nutritionist as well.
You know, we also wanted to discuss that we want to kick off on Monday a 5-day raw food challenge. And so this is kind of like the background, it's like the base for the information. And we want to challenge you to, if you want to talk a little bit more about that, Demetria, but we want to challenge you to either replace one meal with raw, 2 meals, or all 3 meals. And we had talked about Demetria putting together and Senia putting together some smoothie recipes and things like that to make it easy. But as a detox, it's a good idea, you know, and I'm looking forward to it and I'm planning on doing it. So, okay.
Awesome. I'm excited too. Yes, as Annette mentioned, we are going to kind of launch a raw detox, and you can do anywhere from 2 raw meals a day to 4 raw meals. It's completely up to you, but just keep in mind when you're transitioning to transition your body as well. So that's very important because you will literally be like balled up somewhere because your stomach is going through 2 extremes of digestion. So just keep that in mind, but we'll talk about all of that when we kind of start introducing everything to launch the actual raw food diet challenge. And it will just be a 7-day challenge, something simple so people don't get overwhelmed, but to also kind of introduce you into the raw food diets and trying to implement that. If not on a daily basis, at least maybe a detox here and there. So yeah, I enjoyed this. Thank you, Senia.
There's some comments on Facebook. Annette, there some are in Spanish. Can you help me?
Okay.
Norma's comments are in Spanish, and then Ruth has a comment.
I don't see it. I don't see it. It's in the group.
Norma says in English, I have a daughter who is 6 years old and I am pregnant now. My mom said that it is more difficult to change the diet of children and it is more important to start early with eating healthy. Do you think I can change my daughter's eating now?
Okay, la pregunta es, ella tiene una hija que how many years? 5?
6.
Una hija que tiene 6 años y ella quiere cambiar su dieta, pero no sé cómo hacerlo. Si es posible, si es cómo ella puede hacer eso con una niña.
Cambiar la dieta de la niña.
Sí.
De ahí hay que enseñarle a comer.
Ok, aquí dice, en el chat dice, tengo una hija que tiene 6 años y estoy embarazado ahora. Mi mamá dice que dijo que es más difícil para cambiar la dieta de niños y es más importante para empezar temprano comiendo saludable. ¿Crees que puedo cambiar comer de mi hija ahora? Puede cambiar la comida.
Sí, de hecho es más fácil. Eso sí, creo que debería buscar un profesional que le ayude, pero son más obedientes los niños con las recomendaciones que los adultos.
Okay, she's saying yes, of course. It's actually easier to change it with the children than it is for the adults.
De hecho, los chicos compran lo que los papás comen. Los chicos comen lo que los papás compran.
Especially because the kids have to eat what the parents buy.
Someone else that I follow to kind of.
I'm sorry, and she also said that you should look for a professional to help you with that though, as well.
Awesome. And then just a professional suggestion, there's someone on Instagram as well, and she may be on Facebook, but she goes under I Am Surviving Vegan, and she touches bases on how she kind of gets her children to be vegan. Her oldest daughter didn't start off vegan, but now she is, and I think all of her children are under the age of 10. So she really kind of touched bases on how to kind of get your children to start eating healthier and meal prep ideas and things of that nature for children.
Thank you. And I just want to say that, there's everything in between. We're not trying to promote a vegan diet or any kind of diet for that matter. We're just we did this to encourage you to make your plate healthier. And, so that even if you just follow the My Plate recommendation, I think it's an international, food and drug kind of thing. It's an international standard. And I just wanted to talk about the pyramid, the food pyramid. It was partly changed because the portions have completely changed. The recommendations before was at the bottom of the pyramid, I believe it was the carbohydrates. And I think maybe next was the proteins and the fruits and vegetables were less and less. And so now there's a complete come to, a realization of how important fruits and vegetables are in the diet. So, so just literally taking your plate and filling half of it with salad, you're halfway there. The salads are raw. And I think that overall, from my understanding, from my knowing, a vegetarian, that getting your sources from those kinds from plants, they're not inferior sources of protein. We talk about protein because really, as Demetra pointed out, of the different types of diets, the main difference is in the protein. You can get sufficient protein, adequate protein, and even in some cases, superior protein from plant sources. So, at SestraNow, we're all about trying to improve ourselves, our health, improve our finance, just holistically making us better and stronger. So thank you so much. This was
on
great.
Facebook, Norma Stacy Roper Webster asked that Demetria share the Instagram that you recommended, the Instagram recommendation.
Awesome. So when the presentation is over, I'll go online on Facebook and I'll enter in the information that I shared during the presentation so that you guys can have that as well for future reference.
And also we have Demetria on the marketplace. We have Senior on the marketplace. You can also, we encourage you to use our sisters, check with your sisters first. They have a wealth of knowledge, and we also give the support through the nutrition team of the 1,000 Women campaign. And so we provide these sources, these resources for you, the support. The 1,000 Women campaign nutrition team is giving you guidance and support. But if you really need detailed support, then you should look towards a professional. And of course, check the marketplace first. So muchas gracias, Senia. Fue muy informativo, muy bonito.
Gracias, señora.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Demetria.
Muchas gracias.
Next week we are having a caregivers workshop, caring for the caregivers. So please, and we encourage that you invite people to come out. A lot of people are suffering. A lot of our members are taking care of elderly parents, sickly parents, children. And so we encourage you to join us next week. And we have a wonderful month planned ahead for you all guys, for all of you. Thank you for being here. And we look forward to growing together, to continue to grow together. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Gracias.